Best practices for Azure Synapse REST API. Azure Synapse is a cloud-based analytics service that allows you to integrate and analyze data from various sources. The Azure Synapse REST API provides a programmatic way to interact with the service and perform various operations. To get started with the Azure Synapse REST API, you need to register your application with Azure Active Directory and grant the necessary permissions. This will provide you with a client ID and client secret that you can use to authenticate your API requests. When constructing your API requests, you should use the correct HTTP method for the operation you are performing. For example, use GET to retrieve data, POST to create new data, PUT to update existing data, and DELETE to delete data. You should also specify the correct API version and content type in the headers of your request. It is also important to handle errors and exceptions properly. The Azure Synapse REST API returns standard HTTP status codes to indicate the result of a request. You should check the status code of the response and handle any errors that occur. In addition to handling errors, you should also implement retry logic to handle transient failures. The Azure Synapse REST API may return a 429 status code if you exceed the rate limit, or a 503 status code if the service is unavailable. In these cases, you should retry the request after a short delay. When working with large datasets, you should use pagination to limit the amount of data returned in a single response. This can help improve performance and reduce the load on the service. You can specify the number of results to return in a response by using the top parameter. Security is also an important consideration when using the Azure Synapse REST API. You should always use HTTPS to encrypt your API requests and never include sensitive information, such as your client secret, in the request body. You should also use the principle of least privilege when granting permissions to your application, and limit access to the necessary resources. By following these best practices, you can use the Azure Synapse REST API to integrate and analyze data from various sources in a secure and efficient manner. Remember to always check the status code of the response and handle any errors that occur, and implement retry logic to handle transient failures.